Hello and welcome to Shamrock Foods Kitchen Conversations, where we'll talk to Shamrock partners just like you, how they approach the hospitality business, stay on top of trends, and manage a successful restaurant operation. I'm your host, Jeff Piven, business consultant with Shamrock Foods, and I'm joined today with a great Shamrock Foods partner, John Conley, chef and owner of Salsa Brava in Flagstaff, as well as Fat Olives, one of my personal favorite restaurants up there. Good afternoon, John. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks. I'm glad you could make it. How's the weather? You guys hanging in there?
You know, it snowed last night. We got like 3 inches. I thought I was going to have to put my plow on. No plow necessary. It's beautiful. Sunshine. I think it's 55 out, and it's a great day. Beautiful up here.
Awesome. Beautiful. I get cold easy because I'm from the Valley here in Phoenix. But to the audience, everyone watching out there that's on this feed, everyone in TV land, so to speak, you can actually comment and ask myself or John questions, and we can answer live. It's really cool. I can see the chat here on the side, so make your comments down below, questions, etc. And we'll be sure to answer them here, or after the show, we will get on Facebook and answer you then. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Now, John, tell us a little bit about your background. How did you come to be in the food service industry?
So I grew, like you're from Phoenix. I grew up in Phoenix, and my first job was at Cat's Deli on Central Avenue. I was 13 years old, and I was washing dishes for about a week, and Leo, the line cook, had a little too much to drink on Friday night and didn't show up on Saturday morning. But I was there washing dishes, and he had taught me how to, flip eggs and par-bake bacon and make potato pancake batter and chicken stock. And so I took the initiative, and I set the lineup that Saturday morning before Wanda and Howard arrived. And Howard arrived a little bit late and was pretty upset, and I thought he was going to have to set up the line, but walked into the kitchen and the line was all set up. And then Wanda showed up, and she and I proceeded to cook the whole Saturday rush at Cat's Deli. And she had some very kind things to tell me, and I remember it like it was yesterday. And I've just felt at home immediately with the chaos and the heat and the yelling and the screaming, and Wanda just really inspired me that morning. I knew at a very early age that I was destined to spend a career in the kitchen, and that's exactly what I've done.
Hey, there's no yelling or throwing of anything in any kitchens anywhere. I don't know what you're talking about. Well, so Salsa Brava in Flagstaff. So you came from Phoenix. You're up in Flag.
Yeah.
And you told me something about $200 and a dream. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, I left. So I went to school in Phoenix in high school. And the day after I graduated high school, I went to go work for the Forest Service. And, you're supposed to be 18, but I wasn't back then. You could white out. And I was 17 years old. And I went and got on a hotshot crew, and I fought fire during the summer. And then I cooked throughout the whole school year. I eventually got on a smoke jumping crew, so we were parachuting. It was a very elite group, and I smoke jumped for several fire seasons. And I came back in the middle of my senior year at NAU School of Hotel Restaurant Management, and proceeded to open up a little taco shop called Salsa Brava. And the day I turned that sign around, I literally was my only employee. I had about $200 to my name. Paul Callahan from Shamrock came and knocked on the back door and introduced himself. And I said, listen, I would love to buy food from Shamrock, but I really don't have a pot to piss in, and I need some terms. And Paul went to bat for me and got me terms right out of the gate with no money to my name. Over 30 years ago, this happened. And wow. I think Shamrock got a customer for life that day. It's been a great relationship ever since then. But essentially, I had $200 the day I opened. Shamrock took a big chance on me. And I'm happy to say in 32 plus years, I have never missed a payment with Shamrock. show. I mean, we've had a 30-year love affair. It's been great. I've only had 5 sales reps. I know them all. They've all been amazing people. I've got Mike Settle right now, and you know, he'll go the distance for me. And he exemplifies what Shamrock's about relationship and family. And I've watched Shamrock in 30 years get huge and still maintain a really close connection with me and my restaurants, and they have not lost that kind of family affair. It's been really a great thing. Well, that's my $200 story, but I kind of took it a different direction.
Now, we didn't pay him $200 to tell that story. He told that all on his own. Well, we appreciate that, and we're so blessed to have you as a customer after 30 years. That's amazing. And, you know, here at Shamrock, we treat our customers like friends and our associates like family. It really is not lip service. I love that about my company, and we're glad to have you, sir. And so recently, we have to talk about recent events, of course. Tell us how you've pivoted in the past few months. I know in Flagstaff, it's a different kind of community. Tell us what you've learned and what you've been doing.
So you were a little broken there towards the end, but I think you're leaning towards what's been going on the last several months. How's COVID been? What's been the takeaway? And I tell you, it's been a long year. We had a leadership meeting between both stores this morning, and we just kind of reviewed and talked about. I'm just so tired about the word pivot, and I just want to look to the future. And I truly believe in my heart of hearts that we are in for one gangbuster year, and we're trying to set the stage for that right now. The takeaway, you know, COVID has been miserable, but there have been some significant nuggets of gold. In my case, we've taken a very hardline approach at my restaurants. I could only put it one way, and that is that my employees and my companies paid a heavy price as a result of me having a son with Down syndrome, because he has comorbidities and he does not do well with pneumonia-like diseases. So we took a very hard approach to program.
You have to take it seriously.
Yeah. But in the midst of all this, we really got to see what our staff was made of, you know, where the metal meets, and people that we didn't anticipate would come through with great leadership, have come through with great leadership. We had to fast track a lot of technology. We had to really look at what we were doing in our kitchen and become more efficient in the midst of a pandemic. Our minimum wage in Flagstaff here went to $15. Soon to be $15.50. Next year it goes to $15.
Wow.
So we have a pandemic, we have a $15 minimum wage, and yet there's been some beauty in all this chaos. We're setting the stage for the future, and you know, it made us be prudent. I think that if you came into this and you didn't have prudent reserves and you didn't kind of anticipate your financial needs, you are now, and you're going to have prudent reserves, and you're going to, you know, have those conversations with your purveyors, primarily Shamrock. And you know, that's one thing Shamrock has done too, is they have the technology, some of the podcasts, the communication we're having about what's happening in the industry and industry trends in the moment, in a pandemic, and the cost savings involved with that. That's been pretty cool. Shamrock has been a great partner in that. And again, I'm not just providing lip service. There's been great leadership coming from Shamrock in helping to lead and guide our industry, specifically salsa brava and fat olives, you know, in the midst of my first pandemic ever.
Right. First, maybe not last. Cross our fingers. So when you changed your menus and you had to get a little bit smaller, you were using things like Menu Wizard, which is our Shamrock technology for doing ideal costing, et cetera. But you were looking at your product mix and working with perhaps Mr. Hubbard up there. And you mentioned Mike Settle, you know, the racquetball genius up there.
That's what he
Can you take us through what technology specifically helped you and how you used it?
He wants you to think he's a racquetball wizard.
Oh, he crushed me, even left-handed.
I know, he is pretty good. So it's mostly, where we benefited is mostly in the conversations and in the change of product. You know, because labor's become an issue, and because we had suffered so many open enclosures, we looked at your meat cutting plant, for instance, and how we could, when we were cutting and doing our own fish and our own proteins, we took them up and we had all that done for us. That was a huge savings. I'm old school, and forever I thought that I had to be the one, you know, filleting my salmon for our salmon fajitas, and cleaning shrimp, and, you know, cutting down our carne asada, and breaking down all of my my pork shoulders, my pork butts. And I was forced into looking at primarily Shamrock's meat cutting plant, and I wish I had done it years ago, but it was a huge cost savings. So that's one aspect, is why are you doing this now, John, when your cooks, you have a hard time getting cooks, or your cooks are out with COVID, or they have kids in school, or being, you know, Zoom school, my employees with kids. That was a real challenge. And that was, I didn't think we'd have that conversation about, I would have to go to the Shamrock meat cutting plant to do my work for me, because some of my cooks are home with their children doing school. That's the
and it's making sense for you, and it makes sense for a lot of folks to ask themselves the question, you know, do I let my knife speak for me, or do I let my whisk speak for me? And, you know, John came to the realization, and I appreciate, after 30 years still playing heads up ball, that your point of differentiation and your value to your customer is with your whisk and not your knife. And I think it's super smart. And you guys have a very special situation where $15.50 an hour at a minimum for all your servers is a heavy lift in the labor department. So God bless you. You're playing at a higher level than a lot of folks and doing really well. Let me just quick give a shout out to Verlin Dickerson. Thanks for tuning in. Tim Manis, my brother from Denver, and Sherry is giving you props. Salsa Brava and Fat Olives are both amazing restaurants. Can't wait to visit Flagstaff again and get some of that fantastic food. You have an amazing impact on people, John, and that's why I was so excited to interview you here today. So for those of you just joining us, I'm with John Conley from Flagstaff, chef and owner of Salsa Brava and Fat Olives. If you're ever in the Flagstaff area, or even in a 50-mile radius, you need to go into town and visit John and his amazing staff. If you have any questions, like our folks down below have already commented, put something in there. Just drop by and say hi. We'll appreciate that. And there's a lot of things that John's talking about here that I believe are really going to help restaurant owners, especially in the second half of this segment here. So, John, we talked earlier in the show, and if somebody missed it, you were given an opportunity to set up the line. You were a dishwasher, and somebody called in sick, the brown bottle flu, I think you said. And after the shift, the owner of that restaurant turned and said something super positive to you, and you said something to me a few weeks ago, which was, and I might not get the quote right, so correct me if I'm wrong, never underestimate the power of a kind word to a young person. Can you tell me how that's affected you and how you use that in your culture today?
Yeah, you got that right. I mean, and I remember,
good.
I remember it was like yesterday. And, you know, there are benchmarks in our life, and they create change. And, you know, when I opened the open sign at Salsa Brava, I was 21 years old. And I didn't have the skills, and there was some luck. I mean, I just grinded it out, and I was not easy to work for. And I suffered a lot of turnover. And, you know, my kitchen rage spilled out onto the dining room floor, and it was not a perfect situation, but we still had good guest counts. And the reality is that pain is a great educator, and it's painful having to pay to train people and to turn over and watch the door open and close. And I wanted to have some retention, and I had to go back to that kindness that I was shown. And once I stopped, you know, really being driven by the bottom line and started looking at what it was going to take to create really healthy relationships with my employees and a better retention. I'm happy to say we have twice the industry average of retention now. And
Wow.
It took somebody like Wanda, a long time ago to have kind words for me, and I had to go back to my roots there. And we do take kind of a counterintuitive approach now. I mean, my managers, they don't work over 41 hours a week. They have 2 weeks off in a row. We really, and this is, I don't want to make this a political statement, but even this morning we had a leadership meeting and we had 4 17-year-olds that we asked to participate in this, because I really believe more so than ever, and this is in my heart of hearts, that we have such a responsibility to empower our youngest employees right now, because they're going to be the ones that are going to change, whether it be our political platforms, but I want them to be seen. I want them to have a voice, and I want them to know that they can create change. And that's part of this idea of value, of using kindness. There's no yelling. We don't yell. I did that. That whole stage is come and gone. It does not work. And it's just managing people from a place of kindness now, but empowering our youngest of our young, because in our political climate, whatever it was this last year, what I do know is that moving forward, the youth right now that we employ are going to be movers and shakers, and I have a responsibility to empower them with that. So
that's fantastic. And I hope that, that resonates with some folks out there, because, sometimes you get frustrated and you want to yell and scream, but I think it's counterproductive. And I agree with that 100%. You got an amazing culture, and it's been emboldened. It's been bolstered since COVID and all of this. You guys have gotten closer. And so I'm going to kind of share one of your secrets, but can you tell us about, we've got your 6. Tell us what got your 6 means in your restaurant.
So before COVID, we had, we all, as leaders in our industry, as leaders in our own businesses, we're looked to inspire people. And when we have our quarterly whole staff meetings, I really look forward to delivering a message that is memorable. And my tank was running dry. I mean, after 30 years of trying to be the captain of the ship, or of being the captain of the ship, I tried to use my own life experiences. And I do a thing called the Mess Lords, where 4 of us, we've traveled in the last 10 years to over 23 countries and 52 military bases. We've traveled 1 million miles. We have cooked for 250,000 men and women. We're considered entertainers. And I had an opportunity to cook for many of the special forces, and this idea of I have your 6. And how can I take that and drive that home in my restaurants, whether it be food in the window, whether it be an unbussed table, whether it be we're going to treat our entire, it's not about a station. The restaurant is one station. It's not front of the house. It's not back of the house. It's one house. And how can I watch your back? How can I have your 6? And we started driving this message home, and it was really getting traction. And then COVID hit, and what a messed up time. I mean, we're dealing with, now we're wearing all these hats, whether it be marriage counselor or epidemiologist, all this weird crap that I just out of my wheelhouse. But what was in my wheelhouse and what I could do is reinforce and drive this message that no matter what, a pandemic, homeschooling our kids now, minimum wage, supply chain issues, food cost, I'm going to have your 6. And the way we're going to get through this is that we're going to carry each other. And there's going to come a day where you're going to have to carry me in this last year. And my staff carried me. I was exhausted, and we all went through this exhaustion. But know this, everybody, that we as a team are going to carry each other through our hardest times. And you're going to know right away, right out of the gate, who's struggling. And it's going to be our job to have their 6. It's going to be our job to pick them up, to embrace them, and carry through the week, the day, the shift, the hour, whatever it is. We've had to carry people for several weeks that, there was no bitching. It's like, we got you. No matter what, we got you, and we're going to carry you through this. And my staff, we just did it to each other, back and forth. And in our leadership meeting this morning, we talked about that. Like, we need to maintain this idea that no matter what, we got your back. With coming out of this thing, we're going to come out of this thing strong as a result of that.
Well, I heard that story. We talked a bit, and man, I've been thinking about this and the Got Your Six for a long time now, and I hope that everyone that's out there watching this is taking note of what you're talking about, because that type of powerful culture in a restaurant is the difference between the turnover, the high labor costs, and really just a business that just is in business for whatever reason, to a solid pillar of the community, giving back and being part of a bigger vision for that restaurant and those people in it. We got a couple questions coming in online. What are you doing? We're seeing some other states. I know Texas is opened up 100%. Are you guys ready, or what type of preparations are you doing to be ready for 100% capacity?
That's a very appropriate question, because again, our meetings this morning between both leadership teams at Salsa Bravo, we talked just about that. I mean, you have Alabama and Texas, and you have governors that are lifting all restrictions. It was introduced this morning in Arizona, the House of Representatives, to start lifting restrictions. Flagstaff, we have a mask mandate.
Right.
And so we're different than, so when we get people from Maricopa County, there's been some hostilities. I mean, I'm just going to say it because I believe we haven't had a consistent message, and people are not used to having a mandate for masks, and then they come here and they do. So where are we at now? We're at 50%. And this is the way we did it. And this is about having your six, is that I'm not going to make that choice. One of the changes in COVID is that we have a legitimate democracy in my restaurant, and that's a dangerous word in my environment. But there are certain things where my leadership and myself have an equal vote, and I want them to feel safe, and I want them to feel secure. So we as a team this morning, we just took a vote. How do you feel about when this comes down? We have mandatory testing in my restaurant right now. Every Monday, my entire staff gets tested.
Right.
We get the results by Thursday, and we schedule accordingly. At first, that was very difficult, but right now, my staff, they cannot wait to get their test results. And our clients and our guests feel secure in knowing that. But remember, we're coming out of a pandemic now. So to answer your question, it is a group decision getting ready to kind of come out of COVID. I have empowered my staff to have an equal point of view, because they're the ones with boots on the ground, and it'll be clearly up to them, and that decision will not be driven by me.
That's great. I appreciate that collaboration. I think it's great to have everybody feeling safe moving forward. And truly, it is up to you and your staff at the end of the day, what you're doing in your business and what you're comfortable with. Thank you so much, Jordan, for that question. Bert is asking a question about the meat cutting. I'm going to have to answer you afterwards, because I've got to ask you. You're a big part of the community in Flagstaff, and you told me something really, really inspiring about Special Olympics and what Salsa Brava and Fat Olives does and how you guys support that movement. Can you tell us more about that, please?
I just think generally, I mean, boy, we could talk for a long time.
I know, and we have a few minutes left, but I really want to get this in there because it's powerful.
So I have a son with Down syndrome, so it's near and dear to me. But even prior to that, I think we have a clear responsibility to be just team players within our community. And there's so much that we can all do beyond the borders of our buildings. And recently we just got finished with a fundraising campaign. I've been really lucky to do a whole bunch of competitions. Are you talking about the Food Network stuff? Yeah.
No, I mean, none of you don't want to talk about it, but
so I do.
You're very humble, Chef.
I've been in a bunch of competitions on the Food Network, and I've won a bunch of them. And we've taken all that money, and all said, we've raised over $120,000 for Special Olympics. Now and Shamrock's been a great partner in that. I got to tell you, they wrote me a fat check. So let's talk about that for a minute. But I didn't go asking; they just volunteered that. We've raised $120,000. I've been on 8 or 9 guys grocery games and diners, drive-ins, and dives, and I just think it's really incredibly important that it just pays dividends. I mean, there's enough takers in the world. We need more givers. Right. And so, yeah, we've raised $120,000 for Special Olympics as of yesterday.
It's incredible. And it really inspired me. And I am going to reach out to you personally to see if I can get myself and my kids involved to help you with those volunteer
that's a good point, too, because one of the things, we have the Flagstaff Family Food Center right behind us.
Right.
We have all these opportunities. And one of the things, I'll just say it. I went to Brophy. My parents said, you're going to go to Brophy and you're going to pay for it. So I cooked for the Jesuits down in Phoenix in order to pay for my school. But one of the things that Brophy, and I didn't like Brophy. It was very difficult for me. But this idea of men for others and being of service, I didn't get it. But later in life, I did. And as a leader in our community and in the restaurant industry, and all of you that are managers, we know when we see that employee that comes in and their head is down and their shoulders are down and they're kind of, poor me, it's usually a luxury problem, my boyfriend this or my girlfriend that, I tell them this, I say, listen, let's go spend a few hours at the Flagstaff Family Food Center, 1 block behind. Right. You volunteer once for Special Olympics and you will be a volunteer for life, but you will come away with this idea that, wow, I mean, we got it good. We really got it good. And when you put yourself in a position where you can see what the need is and you can find some gratitude, that's a game changer. And we're really lucky to have all these abilities here in Flagstaff right behind us. I mean, I can literally take an employee and go, let's go serve dinner, 1 block away at the Flagstaff Family Food Center. And then let's see how you feel after that.
Well, handing out some humility and having tons of grace, lots of great messages today. But we can't be a Shamrock kitchen conversation without talking about food for just a minute. So tell me about a dish that you just love. And can we maybe throw in a little bit about, you've got a new concept on the way. Tell us about that too.
I do. I'm lucky. I'm right on Route 66 here in Midtown. And all of my, Salsa Brava and Fat Olives are pretty much right next to each other. So in between us, I own a building. We're doing design work now. And that's going to be a breakfast lunch concept. And it'll be, a true blue New York bagel, boiled bagels.
Awesome.
We're going to be doing our own grab locks. And we will employ primarily young adults with developmental disabilities. We tried to drive home the idea of a nonprofit foundation-based restaurant. Very hard to crunch those numbers and very risky in this environment up here with going to 1550. I say 1550, but we're actually going to be at $17 within 24 months. No kidding. So we're putting a third concept together of Shamrock Foods. We just had this conversation this morning. We're looking at the coffee program with them and doing custom labels and roasting and then so let's talk about food. My favorite dish is probably going to be our carne adobado tacos here at Salsa Brava. It is.
Yes.
It is wicked. I mean, I love hot food. I love. I'm going to go cook in Pearl Harbor for 500 sailors on April 4th, and I'm doing carne adobado for 500 at Pearl Harbor, and it is memorable because it is smoking hot. I mean, it is strip wax and remove paint. And I love I love that type of food. So,
me too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited. I'd love to see your pictures from Pearl Harbor. So make sure you take some videos and send them back and share them with everyone. For those of you out there that commented, thank you so much for your participation. And thanks again for joining Shamrock Foods Kitchen Conversation. We're out of time. Special thank you to John. I appreciate you sharing all your wisdom. And we're appreciative for your business and for your friendship, sir. Everyone out there, we will get back to your comments if we didn't, and we'll see you next time on Kitchen Conversations. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, you guys.